Hi guys, I'm ExactChaos and welcome back to another episode of How to Play Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. In this episode, it's one that you've been waiting for. We're talking about utilities. Our first town is ready. Town of Karla over here is ready to almost accept people. We've got kind of everything we need. We still need to talk a little bit about distribution and things like that in a following episode before we actually allow people. But now that we've got places for people to live, places for them to go to kind of get to work, either by bus or by train, and all of the necessary amenities, including education and hospitals and schools and all these kind of things. The next step of the puzzle is to get them utilities. And there's a variety of things that we need to look at. The first one I'm going to look at is going to be water production. So water production is a bit of an interesting process, right? So what you do is you use a well, right? Either you taking surface water, okay, or you take a well, a small water well. And as a quick tip, a small water well doesn't need any workers. So I, in my playthroughs, just build more small water wells as opposed to one big one. So 3 of these is about the same capacity as one of these, right? This one needs people to work there. It needs waste collection, it needs power, it needs, potentially even a bus to bring people there. There's a lot of issues with one of these guys. Plus, you can't have it in a situation where there's lots of pollution. Your water quality will be based on the pollution. At the moment, we don't have any real pollution. We don't have people. We don't have any kind of industry, but that's something you want to bear in mind. If you're planning out big polluting industries, you need to maintain your water quite a distance from there. And similarly, construction, there's an element of construction industry that can be also quite polluting. We'll have to come back and have a look at that. Maybe this isn't the right spot for construction if we want to do that, but I guess generally speaking, we'd be okay. Now, the next thing you want to do, okay, just going through that. So from the water well, you then go into water treatment. So even let's say, so let's take any location here, right? If we get water from here, the water quality will be 94. This will fluctuate over time, right? Depending on what's happening from a pollution perspective. Look at this. Even just next to the buildings that's been constructed here, it's already 87, 88%. So it'll fluctuate over time. Similarly, the water from the surface, if I can somehow find a way of dealing with it. Geez, it's quite a difficult one to place. Anyway, it's really difficult to place. But surface water is quite pollutant as well. It's quite dirty. So, did we find a spot? I think there's a spot here. There. 77%. Okay, so I've never used surface water. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe you can use it for industry, for industrial use. Okay, so from this, the next step you do is water treatment. Now, you may think initially, well, hang on, let's go back. So, water well over here, 94%. You might think, oh, 94% is good. However, no. I think water needs to be above 97% for people not to get ill. It might even be more. I generally aim for 99. 99% is fine. If it's less than that, and marginally less than that, you start getting issues. So you do need to include water treatment to get it back to a reasonable level. Okay, you can use trucks with water, but generally speaking, you're better off just to get it done right straight away. Now, the next step, now that you understand it, oh, actually, hang on. So from treatment, you need to store it, and that's where the reservoirs come from. You don't have to store it. You can send it directly to homes and things like that from treatment, but bear in mind that you have no buffer. If you lose power for any reason, you are in trouble, right? Straight away you're in trouble, and it's just not going to work for you. So bear in mind that might be an issue, as a challenge that you would face. Okay, so always put in place a reservoir in between your treatment and your distribution network. Then from the reservoir, you have a large pipe network that can include pumping stations or just gravity-based networks, and then you have substations in local areas that sends it to individual people, to their houses, right? Not to individual people, to their homes. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to hit F2 So you can see the contour map. Always plan your water with regards to the gravity network. Okay, so that's the one thing. You want to make sure that you've got a little bit of gravity network working in your favor. At the same time, you also want to check areas for reasonable kind of reasonable levels of quality, right? And try and keep it far enough away from your pollutant industry. So what I'm kind of playing around with is maybe we can do a little slither of these kind of water wells over here. It's quite a distance from the potential power plant that we're planning over here, even further away from the steel mill, potential steel mill, and it's far enough away from the construction industry so that we can get our water from a reasonably clean place to on the edge of a hill over here. Gives us a little bit of maneuvering space. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give us a little bit of, do we need to, can we just kind of squeeze it in here? I think we can just squeeze it in here. So let's just get a few of these small water wells, and we're going to do a couple of them. So it's pretty flat over here. So I guess we're going to try and line them up so that we can actually get, we'll do something like this. So we'll do a couple of them. Yeah, I think that is going to be a reasonable stint. Now, we do need to bear in mind these things, I think, can burn down. So what we will want to do is we'll find a little bit of an access road up here. We'll meander it around a little bit, down that way, across this way, and probably tie it across over there. And then what we'll do is we'll tie these guys in. Okay, so that's step one. We'll get them all built out. They don't have any power, so nothing's going to happen. Oh, it's still building. Nothing's going to happen. They don't have any power. Okay, now, what I think we can also do is we can straight away go from here into a bit of a reservoir. I like something with a reasonable size. That is an underground reservoir. These are switches. So something like this potentially could work, and that gives us some additional height as well, right? Doesn't actually tell you the height, but at least gives you some level of water that's immediately kind of generally available. What does the other one look like? And I think, yeah, anyway, let's just stick with something quite simple like this in this area over here, right? So we'll do that. We'll get that one in place. We will also then need a little bit of a pumping station, I guess, to get everything in here. So let's do that. Okay. So so strictly speaking, 26 cubic meters per day. So is what goes through this pump, right? Through this pipe. If you look at this guy can produce. It doesn't actually say it here, but if you look at it here, it says this guy can produce 70 cubic meters per day. So that pipe is not going to be big enough. So we'll have to go for this pipe already. So let's pop it in there. Let's go underground so that you can see what we're doing. We'll get the second one in there, and we'll get the third one. Let's switch off snapping just for a second so we can kind of get them into place, and we'll get that there. So that's our water extraction piece. Go back underground. So now we've got 70, 70, 70. That means we potentially need 140 in here. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to do one in here, and the other one. Ooh, actually, we've messed this up a little bit. Let's trim that back. Sorry, I'm going to trim this one back, and we're going to do it the other way around. We're going to do this. We're going to loop around and do that so that we can at least fill that up at a reasonable pace, right? So that should now give us maximum capacity of 140 cubic meters of water per day into this one, which is about, so in 2 days, it should fill up. Now, from here, we can then run a pipe that's going to come out over this way. So let's go back upstairs. We'll quickly get all of this finished off. So that's the first step. So this is our water extraction. This is untreated water, but we're trying to keep it nice and clean. At this stage, it's going to be about 95%. So it's going to be very little requirements for anything other than that. Okay, so now the next piece of the puzzle is treatment. So let's have a look at the treatment component. Treatment will definitely need people to work there, right? So let's have a look at this. So this guy can accommodate up to 120 square meters per day in the small treatment. This one is 300. So I guess this one should be sufficient, right? The small water treatment plant should be sufficient because we're going to have a little bit of excess from that, but we won't be able to even closely provide enough water for this one. So this one will be overkill, right? Plus it takes more power and, all these other kind of things. But, oops, I almost built it. So the idea is, and hang on, let's have a look. Is it pollutant? It's not pollutant. Okay. So the next piece of the puzzle is for us to place this treatment facility fairly close by so that people can actually walk there to work in this area. Now, what we'll do is I'll trim back some of that, but we'll have to find a spot where some of these people can actually walk there. So we will need to have a bit of a look at that, right? So I'm thinking, plus the other thing to bear in mind, we're still gravity focused, right? So we should try and keep it nice and high. So I'm kind of wondering if a spot over here, if we level out a spot over here a little bit, get the road to come up, and we have our next kind of step of our reservoir in this area, maybe that's quite a good spot for us. So let's do that. Let's extend this road just a little bit to go up the hill here. Could even tie it into the highway network there. So let's get that built, right? There we go. We get it built. Now, we want it pretty close by. So how far can these guys walk? They'll probably be able to walk up to about this area, at least if we extend this network here. So what I'm thinking is let's get a little bit of a road connection coming out of there, and we could even give ourselves a little bit of a parallel road track that runs up there, right? So something like that. It's actually pretty nice. It's going to look pretty good. And what we'll do is we'll aim to complete the network, right? Okay, so that's a little bit of a bonus that we weren't really planning out. So this corner here is what I'm targeting for my area, my water treatment area. So a small water treatment plant, and we want water to be able to come in. Let's flip it around. We want water to be able to come in from that side and to push it up, and we want people to be able to kind of work here, right? So let's do a little something like that levels it out just a tad. I think let's pause the game. We'll build that. That wasn't quite the plan, but what we'll do is we'll also make sure to tie this in here. And if we have a look at this, can we see if someone can walk there? Oh, a number of buildings can now walk there. Okay, so that's step one. Water will be coming in here. And then we need to bear in mind that, you know what, I'm probably just going to pump it back up there as well. So let's bring in our pipe. I think a single pipe should be just about enough. We said it can do about 120, right? And if we look at this pipe, that's 127. So a single pipe will be enough to bring in all the water this thing can potentially handle, right? So what we'll do is, because it's a downhill, all these contour lines downhill, we can tie it in directly like so, try and make it nice and straight. And you want to keep this as close as possible, actually, because laying pipes like this could be quite expensive. Pipes takes a lot of steel, they're quite expensive, so there we go. Now, the next step is for us to put another reservoir in place, right? So I'm going to do another one of these guys, and we're going to try and build it upwards a little bit even more, right? So what I'm thinking is, it can come out of here. We can pump it back up to this location, so something like that there. And it's really, well, actually, even here would be sufficient. So we don't need it to go up all that high, actually. So maybe we'll do a little spot like this. You do need a pump in between this. This is like a passive connection. So even gravity, I don't think, is going to fill it up, especially if it's like a high reservoir like this. So I guess you'll need a pump either way. So we may as well get it as high as possible over here. So we'll get one of those guys in place there. We need a bit of a pump in here as well. Again, with the pumps, a quick tip is that you should probably use the big water pumping station because it's based on its electricity, how much water it can actually pump. Plus, it's got the extra connections, of course, but it's based on its on its electricity, really. So we'll do this, right? We'll try and get it onto the other side of this road network here, right? And then what I'm going to do is we'll go underground again. So now all of this, now our pump is in place. Remember the pump. Don't forget the pump. I forgot the pump so many times. It is an issue. Now from here, what we'll do is we'll come around. There's a building in the way. We'll come around here. We'll pump that back up. We'll go out there and we'll pump that in there. Try and keep it all nice and straight. So there we go. Now we've got the second stage of our items in place here, right? We are actively paying for stuff here, but anyway, we'll come back to that in a bit when we do our distribution. So now we've got the second stage of our water in place. So we've got collection, we've got treatment. Come into your treatment and you look at what your desired water level quality is. So it'll use chemicals and it'll give you a desired water quality level. So basically from there we go to 99. From 95% water, we go to 99% water. And now we're going to look at the distribution within the town, basically. So again, you would like to have a look at what's happening with your town and making sure that you're kind of gradually sloping down your water network. So one of the key things that we're going to have an issue with, because we're kind of on a hill here, if we were to run the water network down here, we won't be able to get water to go back up into that direction. So bear in mind, right? So if we're saying we're going to put the water pipes down this road, right? We'll be able to feed everything down here. We'll do new pipes, water switches, and new pipes to come down and feed all of this. No problem. The ones up here is going to have a bit of a problem. Okay. So what we might have to look at is actually just running our water down this area. Now, we do get extra height based on the fact that we're pumping it up into a tower. But still, what you want to do from all your switches, you want to try and run it down. So the next piece of the puzzle, and this is getting a little bit convoluted, we'll have to go underneath. So maybe this wasn't the greatest way of doing it, and you might want to plan that a little bit better. But what I basically want to do is I want to run water down here. So in order to do that, we're going to run our water main along this street, which is going to be our highest street, generally speaking. We might have substations closely located, so we can actually have some level of construction beyond that. But we won't be piping water up this way, generally speaking. So I guess that's the first step for us, is we'll just kind of run the water main in this general area. Now, the way we're going to do that is we're going to use water switches. So where are our switches? Water switches over here. Now, the in-game vanilla one is fine, okay? So we'll just use the vanilla one for now. So what I'm going to do, in broad terms, I'm going to put tons and tons of switches in place here. Okay, so let's start by going here. So we're going to run our water switches alongside this road, right? We're not going to block the road connection, so we'll do kind of like the road corners over here, right? We might even do interim ones in the middle, right? So that we don't, we'll stop it there, right? So that's our water main. We're going to always remember where your water main is going to run, right? Okay, now let's see about tying in the water main. So we want to do this. Oh, beautiful. It is working quite nicely. So that's fine. So that's our water main, guys. Now, we're not necessarily going up, but we need to bear in mind that you don't want to go up. I wonder if that is a little bit of going up. It might be, but because our tower is higher, so there's no pumps in this section. So this is electricity neutral, right? We're not using any electricity for this. So now we've got our water main running up this street, right? If we go upstairs, and we finish off all of this build, right? you can see, let's get out of here. So that's our switches, right? That's our water main running there. It's a very minimally invasive piece, but obviously you can't build on top of those things, but you can build over the top of this, right? So I can build right on top of the pipe, even though it's a well and doesn't make any sense to build that on top of a pipe, but you can. So that's our water main, right? And if we switch back on the contours, it means that we can quite easily distribute water downhill from there, right? So that is brilliant. So now downhill from there, we will start to put in our substations. Now, the next piece of the puzzle is a substation. Now, the substations you want to have at quite reasonable spots within your blocks, right? So let's add one kind of in here. It's interesting that doesn't take water at all, even though people will be working there. Let's do one in there, and let's do maybe one over here. So what does that mean? It means we need a second switch, right? So again, what we'll need to do is run drops down here so that we can run the water down in various directions. So what we are after is to pick up that line straight through here, make it as minimally invasive as possible. So we'll have one switch in over there, and probably another switch, kind of something like that, and we can still continue that pipe down there, right? So if you're using mods, right, like I typically use mods. So what I do is I use larger switches like this for the main, right? So the main is running along there, and then I use the smaller ones for like these secondary piping networks, like something like that. Which is a secondary, but we'll use the vanilla ones for now. It's either way. The reason I use the large ones, so something like this, for instance, is so we can maximize capacity. If I can run 120 square meters, 127 cubic meter pipes down there, there's a lot of capacity in here. I can only run a single 127 down here, but that's going to be sufficient for our starter town. So it's probably overkill to do anything more than that. Always use the biggest pipes. It's just easier. It doesn't cost that much more to do so, and it just helps us out a little bit. So we'll do something like that. That should be just fine. We then continue on to the next piece, and we go there. Okay, perfect. So that's our drops, right? So now we've got a sophisticated, well, not a sophisticated, but we've got a water network supplying water to all of these areas after it's been cleaned. So that's our first utility, guys. So that's our first utility. So let's finish off our water network for this area. So we'll leave that one in place. We'll probably not use that one. We'll run another one down the middle of the block here. Maybe we'll have something there. We'll have something here. So let's get our second piece here. Again, we'll need to start the journey with a couple of switches. So we'll run it down into the middle of the block. Well, you can run it alongside the road as well, right? You can run it down here. I've got it down here, so we can run it downside the road, but we don't need it over there. Maybe we've got enough room here that we can actually just run this one. So let's do that. Let's run this one there and here. That seems reasonable. So I guess that should sort us out. And what we want is some substations. So we'll need a substation, please. Why are you telling me we've got infrastructure in the way? There we go. So I guess what I want is you to go right over there. And I would like you to go... Wow, it's very difficult to see with some of these things. If we flip it around, we could squeeze it in on the other side. That's okay. We'll do that. Let's do that. Perfect. And now let's link them all up. So we'll go back underground, have a look at doing this, have a look at doing that, have a look at doing this, and have a look at doing that. So important thing is you want to provide many switches so that you can continue to have a little bit of additional supply options. So if you have a dead spot, you want to be able to do another short little drop here to serve this area, for instance. And you want to do it downhill. Water, downhill. Okay? start uphill, go downhill. Sewage is the other way around. We'll look at that in the next episode. So water downhill is this. So this is our water network. It's our water network for the entire little town, and we have lots of expandability. So you want to be sure that you can continue to expand it. So for me, what would make a lot of sense is for us to come back and turn this one in, right? One of the key tips for it is have a look at these major contours and try and run it in a band like that, right? So because our water network is running here, it makes sense to continue to run it in there and tie it in that area. So it might be very sensible actually for us to run a road that will help guide our network, right? So if we do this, if we do that, a little bit of variation in height is not the end of the world, but try and kind of tie in. And actually, we can tie in over there. So ultimately, we can do something like that. That's a very good road to help guide our town. It means that we're planning with the contours, with the natural environment, but it also helps us plan out that water network. So our water network, our primary water utility, is running nice and high above our town. There might be some buildings over here, but the cool thing is we could, right? We could do, let's go back underground. We could do another little substation right over here that will kind of serve a lot of buildings over there. We don't have to worry about the real direct kind of the smallest piece of the network because it's just giving you those blue lines. In the real world, you would still have to run little pipes up there as well. But in general, we will get a little substation down here, a little substation down here, and that'll serve any other buildings we put along this road here. So that's it, right? So that gives us a bit of an idea, and we will continue to actually, while we're at it, we may as well just go and build the rest of our little switches down here, so that we have a good view of where our network is going, right? Where our main is running, right? I'm going to keep running it down here, trying to avoid any potential real intersections we want to do. So if this one maybe turns in, maybe do one over there, do another one over there, and we can continue it down that journey. So that's our water main, right? So let's continue to add the pipes to the mix there. Do something like that. Yeah, that's a really nice little straight level pipe arrangement. And now we're slowly, keeping it on the same level so that our pressure is going to be nice and high. And what we'll do is we'll try and do a little bit of this so that we start dropping it down. So that'll increase the pressure as it then drops down into this area. But we need to bear in mind that we can't go back up. We'll have to continue to go down. So that's good. So that's how you kind of build out your utility water network so that you have catchment and you can continuously draw water down from that water main up there. We'll do something very similar with our sewage network, which we will have a look at in the next episode. So guys, if you've enjoyed this episode and you want to see us continue the planning of how you kind of use the advanced concepts and advanced playing mechanisms within workers and resources, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and in your comments down below, tell me if there's any aspects of the game that you're struggling with and you would like to see a little bit more on. Obviously, we haven't switched it on. We'll switch it on once we've built all of it, because some of the extra items we still need to do in the utility planning is electricity, and we probably should have started with that. But we'll do electricity and sewage and heating still as part of the utility network, so that's a few extra episodes coming in. But that's basically the starting point. So I like to explain some of the key things that you need to plan in with the city, because you don't want to kind of preclude yourself from some of these primary gravity networks. You can still squeeze in electricity in a number of different locations, but once you've built in a way that doesn't make sense for your water and sewage networks, you're in a bit of trouble. Or it's not trouble, you just have to use lots of pumps and things. So it's lots of inefficiency in terms of electricity. So doing it like this means that you're going to kind of effectively save on the electricity bill a fair bit. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.